Thank you. Thank you very much for still being there with us, just having a side banter with our guest who is already here with us. Dr. Olu Agunloye is a former Minister of the Federal Republic. He joins us now. We shall be looking at the plan and calculations towards 2023 presidential elections. Doctor, good to have you here with us.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Okay, let's start with what's happening in Kano State this Monday morning. The colloquium holding there of somebody you can't really you talk less about in terms of his strength in the political circle of the country. Do you think there's a significance in holding the colloquium of Bola Ahmed Tinubu in Kano State ahead of the 2023 elections? Is there any correlation?
Well, it depends on many factors. What we believe is that there is still a little bit of chance for things to change. But if things go on the way we are pursuing it at the moment or the way we are handling it, we may not have much chance.
How do you mean?
In a general state of the nation, things are not being handled properly. Issue of security is not being handled properly. Then the political landscape is very diverse, and people appear to be pursuing personal ambitions when the general status of the country is not doing well. Then, of course, this had been affecting the economic development for a long time, and then to believe that we would then have a 2023 under these circumstances doesn't make sense to me.
All right, Doctor, my worry really is, I actually took time to go through some of the interviews we had prior to the 2019 election, and I listened to all the people that came on this show, and I found that everybody is saying the same thing you're saying today. That's to show you that, it's not a problem that started today. And every year, every electionary year, politicians come to tell us we're going to bring change, we're going to change things, fight corruption, deal with insecurity. But we don't get to see that result. Now, people are already jostling for another election in 2023. What do you think Nigerians should be thinking at this point about the current political leadership we have?
Let me say something very clearly. Some people have started to abuse government, started to abuse the system, and started to point out what is wrong with the system without actually trying to find out what solution. Because what we need at the moment is rescue. We need to rescue Nigeria, okay? And then some of us have been preoccupied with this rescue mission, and in attempt to do that, we know that some kind of change must come, and that the change that we expect to come should not be the type that came in 2014, 2015. If you remember at that time, the mantra was AOBJ, any other but Jonathan, okay? And of course, we then got any other person but Jonathan. And then what did we have after that? People are saying Jonathan's regime is better than this one. And we are now faced with another possibility of a 2023, and people need to have a choice. And what we are seeing is that we are being presented with a choice between the deep sea and the devil. We are being presented with a choice between the fire and the fry pan. This is not a good situation. So something else must come. We must see change in a different way, and some of us have been preoccupied with this lately.
Nigerians are very disillusioned with this word change, because we heard this word, prior to 2015 election, like you said, and now we are hearing it again. And how different would this change be? Because if you look at what is happening in the political space, like you alluded to, the people, Nigerians, do not think the government has done well now. And even the PDP rule of 16 years was not better for Nigerians. So what kind of change are you preferring now? How different will it be from what we had?
Unfortunately, we have a situation where we have to use that same word change. And then the true position is that we need to change the change. Okay, so the kind of change we are looking at this time is a meticulously planned change that is rooted in the development of the people, in a truly progressive change, and in a situation where the emphasis will not be on any of the two existing major parties, will shift to another party, and then we are not sure yet whether we will be able to present one single party or a collaboration between 2 or 3 willing parties to present a common front so that Nigerians will be truly presented with the choice between the deep sea, the devil, and another political vehicle which offers social justice.
A lot of people would also argue that these proposals you are making can never succeed without, first of all, addressing the fundamentals of the Nigerian structure at the moment. The system of governance which has continued to stifle development. And, you know, you've had, you know, analysts and researchers who have said, irrespective of the grouping or how altruistic the individual that comes in is, as far as the system remains the same, nothing really can be achieved. So in your opinion, which is most important? Is it an attempt to grab power and change the status quo, or working towards addressing the fundamentals that has continued to draw the country back?
Changing status quo is possible. But in Nigeria, we always say things are not possible because nothing had been made possible in Nigeria except degradation and plunging deeper and deeper into crisis. Okay? If in 2014 somebody said the dollar will become 500 to the naira, they say it's impossible. But it has been possible. Okay? What we have set out to do at this time, a little early, is not exactly as focusing on the election. It's not as if we're focusing on who will win the election. We are focusing on the political vessel, the vehicle. Let us build a vessel which Nigerians could see as alternative. Then if you see what is going on with the Nigerians, they're just being caught up between the devil and the deep sea. And when you have the choice between the fire and fry pan, you do not have any reasonable choice. So let somebody now provide for them some alternative. And we then hope that this hunter's dog will not get lost. It will hear the whistle of the hunter. So, but we think that Nigeria will not be destroyed, okay, because it may bring itself back from the brink of collapse.
Well, I get your point. Just a minute, Nkoli. The question I asked earlier was, you draw an analogy of the devil and the deep blue sea, but other people would draw an analogy of Nigeria being a dysfunctional vehicle. You know, you have a driver who drives it, the car breaks down. Another driver who says, I'm the best driver in the country, picks up the car, drives it, it breaks down as well. So it's not a function of who drives the car, but it's a function of the vehicle. So I take you back to the issue of the structure of the country at the moment. Which is most important? Is it about getting the best of drivers? Because whoever claims to be the best of driver has always turned out, you know, with not taking Nigeria to the destination because the car is faulty. Should the car be addressed first before you begin to think of
the best driver,
the political, you know, vehicle or mechanism, or the driver, for instance, to take?
I agree entirely with that. And part of the thing that we're doing is addressing the issue of the Constitution, okay? Because it is clear that if the best human being picks up that 1999 Constitution, he won't get much difference between what we have now and what he will do, okay? So changes will have to happen. We are looking at that, And we are now looking for ways to do that. But we should not wait. Some people are saying, let us redo Nigeria first. Okay? Some of those people may be right. But part of the thing they are considering is organizing the country so everybody go and do his own. All right? But Nigeria had lost so much time. The 2014 Constitutional Conference had a report which was largely by consensus, but had not been implemented. And this has been on and on because something like that happened when Obasanjo was president, and then the report was also not addressed. So what we need to do is to look at the entire structure itself. Part of the thing is not just the vehicle, part of the thing is the structure itself. And then this may not be enough opportunity to say how that will be done, but it is clear to me that the Constitution itself needs to be replaced. We need a proper we the people Constitution, okay, that we all agree to. We need to have a situation where we will say to ourselves, these are the bases to live together. These are the bases to work together. And then now people are saying, let us go back to 1963, let us go back to regional structures. Of course, this will be a better way to run the country.
All right, Doctor, what you're saying and the change you want to bring reminds me of, the former President Obasanjo's Coalition for Nigeria movement, the third force, which Obasanjo proposed, before the 2019 election. I wouldn't know how much that force, helped us, because at the end of the day, we got back to where we are today. Even before now, the former president has criticized the government of the day at that time, saying a new force, a third force, will save Nigeria and rescue Nigeria. But we still saw the crop of politicians whom Nigerians are tired of, coming into that third force, and eventually didn't see the light of the day.
Well, we are on the National Consultation Forum front. We are working on some agenda. I am in the SDP. We are also working on our own agenda. I also noticed that in that consultative forum front, there are about 11 or 12 parties there. And then I can say that those people cannot say, including me, that we are now representing our parties. We're just members of the front who are also members of another party. And then they are working and cooking new method of bringing in a mega party that will satisfy some of the things that are lacking in the major parties at the moment. A party that will be more attractive to younger people who are in the majority, a party that will be better structured, a party that will not be looking for any other but Buhari, a person that is looking for a particular constitution, which they are also giving input into what the constitution of Nigeria should look like. In my own party, SDP, we are doing almost exactly the same thing. But we realize that we may have to have a partnership with other parties. We have to go into a coalition with another party. We may also be able to raise enough people to stand by ourselves. But that does not stop us from working with other people at this moment.
Have you identified what went wrong with the third force in 2019? Because your party was also a member of the third force, the SDP, represented by Donald Duke as your presidential candidate in 2019 at the time. You also had a Kingsley Moghalu of the YPP, you had Shore of the AAC, you had Obi Ezekwesili, although she eventually pulled out because of the internal issues in her party at the time. Yet, if you take a sum of the result or the scores of these members of this coalition in the 2019 elections, it's not even up to 1/10 of what the winner of that election had. I'm talking about President Muhammadu Buhari, even the one that came second, Atiku Abubakar of the PDP. So have you been able to do some kind of a post-mortem on the 2019 coming together which you had, the pact which existed at the time? So what has been the outcome of that post-mortem? And what are you doing to, right the wrongs that may ensure that you didn't achieve your targets in 2019?
Did you say something about 2019 election?
Yes, 2019
Yeah.
elections.
It's the same election that Atiku Abubakar insists that he won. Okay? It's the same election that people are still complaining of about irregularity. Okay? It's the same election that, oh, it got to Supreme Court, they say, so what? Who's Supreme Court? But what is different now is we are looking at this in a completely new way. We have more time to do so. We learned from the errors and problems of the past. We were part of the CUPP, okay, which did not follow what we laid down, okay? And we are not going to do CUPP again. We are not going to pursue 38 parties again, okay? But we are trying to provide grounds for Nigerians who do not want to be in any of the two major parties, okay, to be somewhere else where they can get value for their vote, get value for their effort. And of course, part of the things that needs to be done is the electoral reforms itself. Okay.
So we'll talk about that briefly.
So,
but could you quickly highlight on the point of divergence between your part and the CUPP at the time?
The what?
The point of divergence between your part and the CUPP at the time.
First, we are not following that process. We started with 3 legs of it. Put people together, it was done in a Nigerian intervention movement, okay, that is going on, okay. I also do not want to preempt what other parties are doing, because here now I'm talking about the National Front, okay. Hopefully one day I will be able to come here and talk about my own party. Second, a large consultation, which did not happen the last time, okay. They'll be consulting now for 1.5 years, but 2-3 years ahead of the election, okay? Then now, we are starting to find out what kind of party should be used, what kind of vehicle should be used. Should this new front go and register its own new party? Should this new front go and dissolve itself into an existing party? Should this new front now adopt one party and ask for complete change of name, complete change of constitution, and so on? What is the blueprint for the constitution? What are the requirements? We didn't do that in the last time around. And then by the time we finished with the blueprint and the constitution requirement for the CUPP, PDP had already taken its candidate, running mate, and platform and campaign. So it was clear that PDP did not need use CUPP as was originally planned.
But the CUPP supported it.
But they needed some handbag, okay, so that it would be said that 39 political parties are supporting this. Okay, they opened office for it. We're not going to go that way at all this time.
So that means you're going to dissolve that structure, which has already been. Okay, let's leave that and go to this. Mergers, really, in our political dispensation, have they really worked? Because even in the ruling APC that we have today, which was also a coalition of different political parties, we're still having some, internal wranglings within the party. Some people believing they're being sidelined, from the agreements they had when they were merging was actually fulfilled. So how different, I'm going to that question again, would this merger be that will make Nigerians believe in it?
Well, we can't say before June, because that's the deadline that the committee has to determine what type of merger, what will it look like, okay? And the committee has just started to work on that. I am secretary of that committee. Gali Naba, the former speaker of the House of Rep, is the chairman of that committee. And hopefully that committee will come out with something special about the merger. But one thing that is clear to us is that if you provide a different platform, different in saying we are not the same as this, we are not the same as that. This is what we believe in. This is what we want to do. There is no difference at the moment between the two political major parties. And you can see, because one is going from this to that and without any difference. Okay? But here, We are going to set rules and say this is how it's supposed to be.
Is it not the same crop of politicians that will still be in this political?
Exactly.
Are they going to come from the blues?
No.
The people that will form this merger you're talking about are probably politicians who have failed Nigerians.
Let me make one example. I hope I won't hurt my friends in road safety. When I was head of road safety, some people came and reported to me that they found some people that were not doing things right. And I said, tell me, in which state that people do things right? And I will hire everybody there into road safety. Nigerians are the same one who sit in the aircraft. When they land in Heathrow, they sit down. But when they land in Ikeja, they all stand up. And the hostess will be saying, please be seated. The plane has not stopped. When we will shout it, they will not listen to him. They're the same Nigerians who slap air hostess for talking to them in a rough way. But when they are treated somewhere else, they don't do that. We believe that Nigerians and a lot of young people, a lot of women for that matter, for which we are targeting, at least in my party, okay? And I think we will be able to convince NCF to do so, wants to go into a well-regulated organization. Organization that is regulated in a transparent way, organization that is regulated in a way that is meant for all of us. Okay, and that is what transparency does. And then we are not going to seek money from some person bringing 20 billion to own the party. Okay, so that is the kind of situation that we say that if Nigerians see something that is workable, they will embrace it. Don't forget one situation. Where we are in 2019, okay, or 2014, where we were at that time, is different from where we are now. Okay, there is siege everywhere, there's insecurity everywhere, and everybody's life is threatened. Okay, and people understand that we are at the brink, and some people must come to pull us back. A rescue mission must come, okay, and somebody must provide you an alternative, a choice, so that people will exercise their power of choice. They are free to now take the wrong one, but we should have provided that choice for them.
That was the same kind of brink of collapse where Nigeria was at the time when former President Obasanjo started writing letters, we remember very well, to the president saying things are not going well, there's nepotism, there's insecurity, there's this, there's that, and Nigeria needs a rescue, or, you know, a third force.
It's similar, but this is worse now. It's worse now. You know, most people, you know, kidnapping of children in school. My daughters went to a boarding school in the bush. They used to see snakes and antelope coming to their boarding house. But we never thought for once that somebody will go and pick them up from the place. This is with a different country.
All right, let's talk about your governance blueprints. I do not know whether, as part of your consultation so far, you've come up with any blueprint in terms of governance, say for insecurity, which is the most disturbing issue for many people in the country at the moment. What is the blueprint of this NC front to dealing with the issues of insecurity?
How this will be dealt with?
Yes.
First of all, I don't have any reason to want to give answers for that, but to raise one point that the insecurity, the attacks by herdsmen or by bandits or by Boko Haram and so on are being felt by the people. But they are direct attacks on the president and commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic. Because the number one and perhaps most major or only task that he has is to provide welfare and security for his territory. So when somebody now goes to kidnap children in a boarding school, it is an affront on President Buhari. It's an affront on the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And he has to rise up to it. So if you ask me what blueprint do we have for that, is that when we provide the new president, he will do what he's supposed to do. He will do what he has sworn into the oath to do. He will not leave it for other people to do. And he will not keep quiet. He will act. He will be part of it. He will be hands-on. The solutions for this are very clear.
Yes, that's exactly what we would like you to propose.
Body language is very strong, okay? So when they attack us on the highway, my friends in Kaduna, for instance, they can't come to Abuja, so they will go and hide somewhere in the petrol station so that when they see a convoy going of a governor or a minister, they follow it. But now even those convoys are being attacked. So what do? There's a breakdown of security because there has been a breakdown of political management in the country, leading to very hazardous breakdown in the economy of the country. I do not like to use the word failed state, but Nigeria is a fragile state. It's a polite way of saying use a casket, not coffin. Okay?
It's a euphemism.
So let's look at the electoral reform which you were talking about earlier. You said this has to happen for things to get better in the electoral process in Nigeria. So what are you proposing as well regarding that? Because you just said when Otibe asked earlier that this election we're talking about in 2019 is the one that even Atiku is still claiming he won. So what exactly do you think should be done to ensure that even your third force gets to power eventually the right way?
First, the main reason for voting is for your vote to count. Okay? So there's so many things that you need to put into the system to make sure that your vote counts. One of those things is to announce the result at that same point, and it is final. Okay? But they're not doing so. One of the things to do is when you go to a collation center, okay, is to collect the results that came from the other side, but it's not being done. Okay? Then now, if you are going to vote, publish the names and the location where you could vote. It's still not being done. And I am aware there is a whole pile of reforms that have been there, some of even pending at the moment for signatures, which have not been done. Okay? So if you ask me one of the things that we need to do, I would say electoral reform. The experts, they know how to get that to make sure that our votes count.
What aspects of the electoral reform, in your opinion, is the most critical at the moment?
It's the aspect that allows votes to be counted at the different places and to be transmitted as final.
You're talking about e-collation of results and e-transmission of results?
I'm an electronics person. I spent all my life doing electronic enablement. Okay, but the point is that it's just a tool. Okay, it's just a tool. In those days when there are no computers, people did election. What we're saying is that at the unit where the election is taken, okay, you must make it safe for people to queue and vote. You must make it reasonable to ensure that people have confidence to come out to vote. You must try to make sure that you don't have people scare you away with guns and so on. Okay, it's some kind of differentiating some people at the voting point. And when we count the votes and announce the votes, it should be final. It should not be such that when you get to collation center in Abuja, it's not the same as you have. And it is like that in most cases.
What
in all those states, it was like that. And the people in the PDP are claiming that the collation that they have is different from the collation that INEC has.
What kind of engagement is the NCF making at the moment with the Joint Committee of the National Assembly, which is reviewing the Electoral Act? What engagement are you making to ensure that some of these propositions you have in mind are reflected in the final document?
Well, part of the things that our group and our party, okay, will do separately or together.
I mean at the moment.
At the moment?
Yes. What kind of engagement, real time, are you having with the Joint Committees of the National Assembly, which is at the moment tinkering with the
Presentations have been
Electoral
made
Act?
to them. Presentations have been made to them, and there's some kind of subtle pressures have been made to individuals in those committees. Okay? But of course in Nigeria, all those things get to a desk and they stall in the place.
So
and that is why we are saying that the body language and the action of the Commander-in-Chief is the most critical. Okay?
In the event that these proposals, these amendments which you have in mind, this restructuring of the electoral processes, do not come to pass ahead of 2023, what prospect does that present to the NCF?
It's the same thing as if the constitution has not changed. But because you just mentioned one word, restructure, okay? We have known from Lord Lugard's time that this country needs to be restructured, but we have never done so. And the consequences are getting more severe, they're getting more dangerous, they're getting more, they're affecting almost every aspect of Nigeria, including now the children. Some of these children that have been kidnapped may never want to go back to school, okay? And if they do, they may just not learn anything until they drop out, okay? So hopefully before 2023, some important changes will occur, and they will get to a level where the Nigeria will not become so unruly that breaking up will be a consideration, or people who are fighting to bring people who are broken up back to this system.
All right, you said earlier that you don't exactly know how your third force will go, whether you are going to create an entirely new party or you're going to bring some of the opposition parties together. But some people have said, why not actually bring all the opposition parties together to form a formidable force that can stand against the ruling party at the moment?
This could do it. This could do it. But we are also mindful of the fact that Nigerians, because of who we are, Mr. A would rather be the chairman of his own party and go ahead to contest election, whether he wins 20 votes or not, okay? So for that, we cannot say we bring everybody together. But those who are in position to do this are coming together. In the front, there are 12 parties out of 18, okay? But out of 16, because APC and PDP are not considered, okay? So there are 12 parties out of 16, so there's a possibility that all may come together.
All right, before we let you go, Doctor, in 2019, a couple of setbacks which you suffered was lack of structure and funding to really push your agenda and your brand to the people. And look at the people who were part of parties that were part of that structure in 2019. Only a handful of political parties were able to win a seat, whether at the state level or at the federal House of Representatives. I'm talking about the SDP and the YPP and APGA as well, out of the myriad of members of the opposition at the time. Do you have this structure? When I talk about structure, I mean not structure in Abuja or Lagos. Structure in the grassroots, the wards of the different local governments, 774 local governments across the country, and the funding power to drive home your objectives?
Well, answer is we are working on that. Structure in every location is even being made mandatory now by INEC. And then what we are doing in my own party, SDP, is what we are trying to strengthen the internal structure to make sure that the Constitution says each state will have 25 members of the executive. Some states are extending that to 35, like Oyo. Oyo may have 35 members of the executive because they have 23 local government, one from each local government. In Kano, we have 44 local governments. We have 46 or so. So, and down to the local government, down to the ward, down to the unit, which must have 10 members of the local government. Then we also have a new method of raising money from membership, details of which I will not say here, but I can say to you that it is driven electronically.
All right. We must thank you very much for making our time to share your thoughts with us on this. Dr. Olu Agunloye has joined us. He is the former minister, or he was a former minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Power and Steel Ministry, and also a former minister of State for Defense, right?
Defense,
yeah,
Navy,
in
yes.
charge of Navy, okay. He has joined us to look at the political situation in Nigeria and, of course, efforts on merger of political parties ahead of the 2023 general election. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you, Doctor.
All right. When we return.